Bros and sisters, what's going on? It's your boy, the Show Bullet 8. Got another video for you today. Now, a lot of people have been asking me about this. I said I would do it a while ago, and so I made the time to go ahead and do so. We're going to get into cooking with Bullet. I don't know. We got to come up with a theme song or some kind of intro for it. But hey, there's a dish called Bistec Ranchero. There's another one called Bistec a la Mexicana. They're essentially the same thing, but one comes in a green sauce and the other one comes in a red sauce. The red sauce is typically the a la Mexicana one, which you will end up finding a lot of times in like the southwest portions of the U.S. and Mexico, so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to make today. So hey, hang on for a minute. I'll get us in the kitchen. We'll get to cooking. I'll be right back. All right, so first off, I hope that the audio doesn't sound weird because I'm using a different mic for this since I'm not next to the computer system or whatever. But like I said, the dish we're going to be making tonight, it's called Bistec Ranchero. But in the version that I'm making, because technically this is supposed to be in a green sauce that's used with specific type of pepper to make the actual sauce that it resides in. But in this case, this is more along the lines of another dish called Bistec a la Mexicana, which is typically in a red type sauce, which is very close to another dish called guisado. But pretty much just to show you guys what we're going to be using for the most part, as far as our vegetables go, we got an orange bell pepper. All right. Now, a lot of times you'll use red for this, but in this case, I'm going with orange. Got a green one, another green bell pepper there, and then tomatoes. And you can use any kind of tomatoes you want, whether it's the vine ripened tomatoes or beefsteak tomatoes or whatever. Personally, I just prefer using Roma. I prefer using Roma or vine ripened, and a lot of different things really won't matter in that case. The other thing is we'll be, of course, using cebolla or onion. Got half an onion here, so this is what we're going to be using, to make this dish right now. And of course, there will also be the steak itself, which I won't pull out right at this very second. And then some of the seasonings that you're going to end up using to season this dish are going to be, we've got sea salt, which you can probably barely see there, black pepper, onion powder, a little chili powder, cumin, garlic powder, and then that right there is dried Mexican oregano. All right, so that's pretty much the seasoning that we're going to be using, and I'll show you when to use that. Otherwise, we're also going to be using a little bit more salt and pepper, and that's going to be when we get to actually cooking off the vegetables, because a key thing to cooking is flavor. Season, like compound the seasonings. If you don't use seasonings, you should be fired. You should be like thrown out and pelted with rocks or something like that, because I don't know where the hell you're getting your flavor from. I understand most things have their own flavor, so on and so forth, but salt and everything else, salt and pepper really boosts that flavor. If you don't season, you ain't got no reason to be in the damn kitchen. I'm just saying it right now. So first I'm gonna go ahead and wash off the vegetables I'll be using and give them a quick little dry. Now, the tools are just as important as everything else. I have two different knives here for a specific reason, but the main knife that you're gonna end up using a great deal of time is this here, the chef's knife, which is typically a 9 to 10-inch knife in and of itself, like from hilt to blade. But whatever, let me just go ahead and knock this out. First and foremost, always be careful. If you are not old enough to be in the kitchen cooking, do not go your ass in the kitchen cooking using knives and utensils that somebody told you not to use. And if you don't know how to properly use them, I'm telling you right now, just be as safe as you possibly can. First off, I'm gonna go ahead and knock the onion out. Onions don't make me cry or anything like that anymore after you know, dealing with stuff like that for so long. But there's a couple of different ways that you can actually cut this. You can actually cut it across and then up and down, and then dice from that point and get, you know, your perfect squares. Essentially, that is a dice. You have a rough dice, 3/4 inch dice, and like there's all kinds of dices. But anyway, I'm gonna do this in a slightly different way, and you guys can watch this. And it's simple and quick. I'm gonna cut it in half rings. And considering I'm not making a great deal of this dish, I'm not gonna use an overbearing amount of any specific thing here. All right, so we've got those layers cut, the half rings. Now take them, stack them, just go ahead down. Voila. I've got perfectly sized bits here specifically for this dish. Not perfectly cubed or anything like that, but it doesn't matter. This is a rough chop and it's gonna work out perfectly fine. And in fact, you know what? That's about enough onions right there. So we're just gonna get the rest of this off of here, except for this little bit here since it's still there. There we go. All right. Now, bell peppers, there's a couple different ways you can actually cut these. You can cut straight out the top, pull it, slice it, go from that point. Me personally, I know I'm only gonna use about, not even half of these bell peppers themselves. Now, you do definitely wanna go ahead and get the veins and the seeds right on out of there. So just take this, run it straight across here. And in fact, the very head of it, gone. You're out of there. And then go ahead and give it strips, or you can actually do it the proper way. This here. And that's the problem with bell peppers. You have some portions that are larger than others, so just go ahead and take that out, and that's more so for your safety than anything else. And then there you go. And then take those slices and give them another rough chop here too. And with your fingers, you should always hold anything fingertips down, so that way you're actually going here and you're sliding it through. But again, I'm doing this all super quick, and it's stupid to actually say that, because no matter what, safety is more important than quickness. But anyway, we go ahead and give the rest of this a nice little rough chop. I'm okay with the rough chop right now because I know it's still all gonna cook in the same damn amount of time. And let's come on and slide on right over next to the onion, because it's all going in pretty much at the same time. Now, usually when you're cooking something like this and you're using bell peppers, I'd advise to go ahead and start the bell peppers before you start the onions, because the onions will soften up much quicker than what the bell peppers will. All right, that's usually, no matter what you make, whether you're making an omelet, something like that, you will learn real quick that bell peppers take a little bit longer to cook than most other vegetables, because they're so much thicker. Relatively, the skin is much different than all the rest of them. It's so weird actually, like cooking and having a camera going at the same time. I'm gonna do this the safe way now, because, you know, hey, I'm trying to promote kitchen safety. There's that. It's out of there. The reason I said that's the safe way, because I was using way too many before. Don't do that, because of the fact that it will get you caught up, and next thing you know, your fingers are bleeding, or a piece of your finger is in the food, and ain't nobody gonna want to eat that. Nobody cares about your fingers when they're hungry. We're good there. The tomatoes, we don't necessarily have to cut them right now, because the tomatoes are going to go in at the end, since they will be the softest thing, you know, going into this dish as far as texture wise. Now, the other thing that I would normally put in here, it's gonna go in here no matter what, but normally I would take a couple of cloves of garlic, dice those up, and even some jalapeno, but right now, not using that. And let's go ahead and get our lovely vegetables here in their own bowl for a moment. All right, and now we got the meat itself here. Now, normally what you should use as far as the meat goes you should be using like a skirt steak, something along the lines of that. But in this case, I'm actually gonna go ahead and use this chuck, essentially boneless eye steak. All right. Still a damn good cutting meat, especially when it comes to making this dish. So let's go ahead and show you how to cut this. And honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and knock all of this out. I know how I am. But most people would just cut straight this way, you know, something along the lines of that. Personally, I do, when I cut meat, typically I'll cut it on a bias. And that's exactly what we're gonna do right now. Your knives, you should always make sure that your knives are pretty sharp, because that way, then you're not sitting there fighting with the meat or anything like that. And I'm gonna get rid of portions of this fat here, but let's go ahead and get through this. You want to try and cut the meat all in the same size as well. And if you start seeing that it's getting a little bit too big as you're going farther down the line, that's fine, because you can go ahead and just slice those pieces in half. Go ahead and knock this fat right here off. I mean, keeping a little bit of it's not that big of a deal. And I'm gonna go ahead and knock that part in half there. And I want all this deliciousness that's right here. And in fact, I'm gonna take portions of that fat to go along in the dish. Not that much though. Not that much though. Let's go ahead and get the next piece out of here. With steak, one of the big things you always want to look for is like good marbling. And when I say good marbling, it's the fat that runs through specific sections. This could have been a whole lot better, but I mean, it's decent enough for this. And I know how I am about fat. Unless you're eating something like, you know, New York strip, freaking Wagyu, or even T-bone, something like that, you're not really going to be worried about it, especially in a dish like this, because it's not about that fat content at this point. Slices are starting to get a little bit too big. Cut them in half. Again, it's all about trying to get all the meat to cook at the exact same rate. In fact, this is going out of here. I know a lot of people probably would have kept that. Not me though. And you know what? I have a whole nother idea for this portion. So we're going to take this off to the side here. Now, that's not a whole lot. I could have diced up both of the steaks or whatnot, but this dish specifically is being cooked just for me at this point in time, and to kind of give you guys an idea of how to actually make the dish. So it's not that big of a deal. Let me wash my hands off here. All right, so you know what? I figured go ahead and get this knocked out of the way anyway right now. So this one here, this knife here, a little bit smaller. There's a couple of different knives that you could use for this, but I use this one specifically because it's much quicker as far as the use goes. There is a specific knife that I can use for fruits and vegetables and things like that. But anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and knock out this tomato. And all we're gonna do, cut off the end, give it a slice right down the middle, and then give it like 3, possibly 4 nice sized chunks on each half. And you know what? This one tomato will be enough, again, because I'm not making a whole great deal of this. And then I'm gonna go back to the 9-inch chef's knife, and I'm gonna go ahead and give a nice little rough chop to this great stuff here, cilantro. Cilantro, this is just gonna be used on the end of the dish to kind of garnish it and give a nice little green. Simple, just, you know, take it, come bunch it up, and then go ahead, give it the chop. That's enough there, and if you're good at it, then come back, give it some more. Perfect. All right, so we got our garnish as well as the tomatoes we're gonna need for the dish as it cooks. I mean, that was pretty simple, pretty quick. Now, moving on, we're gonna head over to where all the magic happens. Okay, so now we over in the spot where it's all about to go down, all right? We have our pan here, this little bad boy here. This is where tortillas are gonna go, and then we got another little pot over here that's got some beans going in it. Typically I would make like rice or something like that to go along with it, but not in the rice mood really. Tonight it's just all about the bistec a la Mexicana and the beans. If I haven't said this already, I'm gonna say it now. I can't stand this kitchen. It's too small. I don't have normal gas range as I'm so much more used to, but it is what it is. Anyway, all right, so we're gonna get the main skillet going here. It's gonna be pretty much on a high heat to start off with. I'm gonna let that go ahead and warm up some before I do anything else, like add in oil. The other things I said I was gonna add in was gonna be garlic. I'm gonna add this here. Normally, I do not like to use this style of garlic. I like actually dicing up, you know, the cloves of garlic or whatever, and going from there. But this is a quick and easy way to make this dish. And honestly, I mean, it's not gonna take you more than 25 to 30 minutes, all in all. I mean, even with cook time. Technically, I like to let mine actually sit and simmer and cook for a little bit longer, and you'll see what I mean by that. And even in that case, I mean, you've got about a good, 10 minutes of prep and then 30 minutes of actual cook time. All right, it's just about there now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and drop a little bit of olive oil in here. And you can actually use vegetable oil, canola oil, something like that instead. Personally, I just use olive oil. Just, you know, whatever you're using. It is what it is. So yeah, we got that going. Go ahead and get out a little bit of swirl all over, because of the type of action that's about to start happening. All right, turn down the heat a little bit, hit it to about medium. And now we're gonna take our vegetables. They're gonna go in first. Go ahead and let them sit there for a moment. And what I say, one of the most important things you can do is season, season, season. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with just a little bit of the sea salt. Sea salt, gray salt. You can use regular salt that most people are, you know, that we typically have, which I have some in there as well because that's used for other things. And then black pepper. And I don't want to use the black pepper that's on the plate because that was actually, you know, rationed out specifically for what I figure I'm going to use on the meat itself. All right, we got that going. Now, you of course can use a spatula or something along the lines of this. It's a spatula, but it's a very flexy one. I don't usually have, you know, need to use that. I will use it in a little bit, but just give everything a little bit of toss and then give the heat back up. Because once you add stuff into your skillet, you're gonna run into a situation where the temperature is gonna go down and then it's gonna try and raise back up, you know, a little bit later. Pretty much what we're looking for is to soften up the onions and the bell peppers and everything else. And in fact, and don't ever do this, I have, you know, asbestos hands. I can already tell that they're pretty much at the point that they need to be. Let them keep going for a little bit more, especially when the onions start sticking to the back end like that. And this is where we're gonna have to go ahead and take this bad boy in. I should actually be using this back burner for this because it's the larger of the burners on here, other than this front one here. But I figured since, you know what, recording and everything else, it had to be in a position to where it's easier for you all to see. Okay, get at about 2 more minutes. But during those 2 more minutes, a new contender has to enter the arena. And that's the good old garlic. Try and spread it out a little bit. Oh yeah, that smells fantastic. You don't want the garlic to burn, anything like that. You don't want any of it to burn. You want the onions to become translucent, the bell peppers to soften up, the garlic to become fragrant, and you should be good. We're gonna let the skillet go ahead and heat back up. Let it go ahead. So tell me in the comments, do you guys like Mexican food? If any of you say no, I don't know, you might have a problem, but you know, no. Seriously, what's your favorite dish in Mexican food, or what's your favorite dish overall? Like the great thing about cooking is, I'm gonna tell you right now, you ever want to make sure you always can eat no matter what the situation is without, you know, I mean, eat good food, decent food, whatever you want to call it, and be happy with the meal? Learn how to cook. Want to impress a girl? Learn how to cook. Easiest way to a girl's heart is through her stomach.
It's true, but he shouldn't say it.
Yeah, no, but then, you know, same thing. Ladies, I mean, same thing. Want to impress a dude? Want to, you know, great date night, something like that? Cook. Netflix and chill with some food that you just made. It's going to work out for you real well. You know what? I'm going to hit this with just a little bit more olive oil. Reason why is because, like I said, this is close cousin to guisado. And one of the things that you have to understand about guisado is that guisado got a little bit of oil to it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and drop the steak on up in there, cut it in, and we're gonna try and lay this out in one layer. Okay. Reason why is because you want everything to be able to brown. Because guess what, people? There's flavor in the brown. That's no joke. It's called caramelization. You ever hear those terms when somebody's cooking? Now you know what that is. That's what happens when the meat or bread or anything like that catches that nice little brown, and sometimes in certain dishes, like nice little crisp, you know, texture to it or whatever. That's called caramelization. That's it being put to work. Cheese happens that way, everything. All right, so we got the meat cooking, and this is on a pretty high heat because I want it to go ahead and cook nice and evenly and get that caramelization going. Now, while the meat's cooking, we definitely got to season it. Go ahead and hit it with that salt. And even though I could just pour it all right on top in one spot, I want to kind of get all the seasoning all around as best as possible. That black pepper. Most definitely the onion. Cumin, chili powder. Now, the only reason why I'm leaving like that small amount on the back end there is because while it's cooking, when the sauce is added, we want to make sure we can actually season that up just as well. Garlic powder. And the beauty of adding seasoning while there's oil there too, it actually blossoms and makes the flavor, open up a whole lot more. And we're going to take that Mexican oregano and we're just going to crush it even more right here over the meat. And that's why you also got to have clean hands. Toss that up. Want that to go ahead, sit, cook up for a little bit. I hope you guys are actually able to see that well enough. It's crazy sitting here trying to do this, controlling the camera and everything else all at the same time. Give it a couple more minutes on that side. And I'll tell you, right now, this is on high heat. Now, depending on the type of stove you have and if you're using gas or whatnot, you may not have to keep it on high heat the whole this whole way through. But at this point I am, because what I want to happen is I want more of that actual texture on the meat itself and to pull most of the juices right back into the meat itself. Even though like it's pulling it out, but once it dries up, then you're gonna leave it, you're gonna leave that crust on the outside of the meat, and a slight amount of it's gonna be down at the bottom of the pan. And that right there, when you add the liquid and everything else to it, oh man, it's gonna pull all that flavor right back into the liquid and mix in and mingle together, hang out, chill, kick it. Whew. Yeah, I'm a fatty and I like food. You know what? No, not a fatty. I shouldn't say that. I kid you not. It is the smarter idea would have been for me to use this back burner, even though, I'm trying to record and everything else, because it gives more of the surface area to actually properly cook. Excuse me. This actually works, but always, always, always do yourself the favor when you're in the kitchen. Use the right tools, use the right space. It just works so much better. And the other thing is, if you use a skillet that is not non-stick, I think that works even better for this dish. It just happens I happen to like these specific ones that I'm using right now. That's how we ended up here. Now we're gonna go ahead and drop the onions, the bell peppers, and the garlic that's already been seasoned on its own right back in here with the meat. Give it a nice little toss. This dish is almost done. I mean, like, so simple, so simple. This is a simple way of making it, I should say. And even with making it the standard way, it still doesn't take that much time. Good food can happen on the quick. I'm gonna go ahead, let that all just sit there for a minute, marinate together, chill out. What makes this dish what it is that there's a green chili sauce that you would normally make to go along in there. They would finish cooking off in that chili verde, something like that. Depends on the type of chili that you're using. But since, like I said, I'm making an edited version of this, plus instead of doing just standard Bistec Ranchero, I'm doing Bistec a la Mexicana. It's gonna be a red sauce. Now, in order to give that red sauce, instead of using like chiles cooked down or tomatoes that have been poached and cooked down or anything else, I'm gonna use a very, very, very high quality tomato sauce. And the reason why this works is because every other seasoning that has been put in here. And typically you're supposed to add a little bit of Worcestershire, and that's how you actually pronounce that. You're supposed to add a little bit of that in there as well. And some even use like a bouillon, like the chicken bouillon or vegetable bouillon. For the most part, the chicken bouillon, I think, is the one that's most commonly used in this. Technically, this is done. I mean, oh my gosh. What I am gonna do, and this is what you should always do, taste your food for seasoning. Oh my. Honestly, it doesn't even need any other seasoning right now. But what I would like to have a little bit more flavor of is that oregano. And since I am going to leave it to sit for about a good 10 minutes or so, and it's going to cook down a bit of the seasoning that's in there with the liquid, and because I'm adding just a slight bit more liquid to it right now, it might need that extra seasoning. Now, this is gonna go down to low. All right, so next up, we're just gonna take the lid to this skillet, throw it on top. We've got it set to a nice low temp. In fact, I mean, I'm about to go pretty low there, almost as low as it can go. Almost to a simmer, but not quite, just a little bit above a simmer. I'm gonna let this sit for about 10 minutes. 10 minutes, all it should take now, it's all set to go. We have hit the 10 minutes. And that is just, oh yeah, that's just lovely. Just to, hopefully y'all can see that pretty well there. I mean, you'll see it even better when it's on the plate, but it's not done yet. We gotta add a little something to it. And in fact, we're gonna get this bad boy heated up here. While that's heating up, we're gonna go ahead and drop the tomatoes in here. Now that we dropped the tomatoes in there, covered it back up, it's almost ready for the tortillas right here. And by the time that this is all heated up and the tortillas are ready, everything will be all set. Go ahead and slap a couple of tortillas on here. All right, that's gonna take about a good 2, maybe 3 minutes. So I said earlier, I normally would add a little bit of jalapeno to it, but since I didn't, I'm gonna go with a little bit of something else to hit it with some spice right at the end. So it might be kind of potent. A little bit of chiltepín. You don't know what chiltepín are? Essentially, it was like red chili flakes. To me, they look a little bit brighter than what most red chili flakes, look like. And then besides that, we've also got some salsa I was gonna go with this. So yeah, we'll be all right on the heat side, even though I like my heat. So go ahead and grab a plate, get this all set, plate it up, dig in, make sure everything's all nice and mixed in together, especially after hitting that chiltepín right at the end there. So first off, take a little bit of this here. Some people make it saucier. Sometimes I even make it a little bit saucier. But I felt like today this was just the right amount, right balance, especially since I'm not having it with any rice or anything too. Toss the 2 little tortillas right there on the back end. Oh yeah. We cannot forget that fantastic garnish of cilantro. Hit that right there. And of course, the black beans to go along with it. And now for the last couple of touches we got to get on here, because You can never go wrong with just a little bit of something extra. Yeah, some lime. And personally, I also like to have a little bit of cebolla morada or cebolla corridas, which corridas is pretty much like pickled. So a couple of like the pickled red onions right there on the plate as well. And that's what we end up with right there. That delicious plate is your bistec a la Mexicana, some black beans, tortillas, a little bit of lime. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and dig right in. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I like to cook. If you guys notice, I absolutely enjoy that. But anyway, I hope that you all enjoyed this video. You had a good time, you learned something, and you'll actually put it to work. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you're here on YouTube, and you of course can follow me on Twitch as well at Michelle Bullet 8. But hey, I'm Michelle Bullet 8. Thanks a lot for being here. I'm out.